Imagine a 1970s Euro thriller aesthetic crashed headfirst into a Cronenbergian nightmare, all while a cheery 1950s doo-wop soundtrack plays over the sound of terror. This is Honey Bunch, the latest feature from the provocative duo Madeleine and Dustin Mancinelli. It is a film that functions like a velvet trap that lures you in with gorgeous, grainy cinematography and a soft-focused sense of romance, only to start peeling back the skin to reveal something much more clinical and repulsive underneath. It is an almost romantic body horror that feels like a lost relic from the mid-70s midnight screening. If you're a fan of high-concept genre pieces that prioritize the vibe over rapid-fire pacing, you're in the right place. But if your patience for slow-burn storytelling is thin, this might be a long walk for a short drink of water. We're going to look at whether this experimental trauma center is worth the visit, or if the script leaves too much on the table to truly reach cult classic status. We open with Diana, played with a haunting, brittle intensity by Grace Glowicki, as she emerges from the fog of a coma. Her reality is a fractured mosaic. She knows she survived something catastrophic, but the what and the why remain locked behind a wall of trauma. Her husband, Homer, played by Ben Petrie, is the quintessential devoted partner, perhaps to a fault. He whisks her away from a sterile hospital environment to an experimental recovery center tucked deep within a remote, suffocatingly green wilderness. The facility is overseen by Farah, played by Dickie, and her staff, who radiate a specific brand of menacing and clinical calm. Among other residents is Joseph, played by Jason Isaacs, a father who brought his own daughter, Josephina, to the same radical treatment. Joseph leans into a weary, protective authority that feels both comforting to Homer and deeply unsettling to Diana. The goal for both families is simple: total immersion to retrieve what has been lost. The conflict, however, isn't just in the gaps of Diana's memory, it's in the friction between her and Homer. As fragments of her past begin to resurface, triggered by the center's unconventional methods, the sinister nature of their marriage starts to leak through the cracks. The stakes aren't just Diana's sanity, they are the physical integrity of her body. By the time she realizes that the treatment might be worse than the trauma, the doors are already locked. It's a classic setup for the unreliable narrator versus the ultimate gaslighter, played out in a cabin in the woods that feels less like a sanctuary and more like a laboratory. Where Honey Bunch succeeds, and where it might lose some of you, is in its absolute devotion to a specific grimy 1970s analog texture. If you're a fan of that aesthetic, this is eye candy to the highest order. The cinematography by and Mancinelli doesn't just capture the wilderness, it suffocates you with it. There's a grainy, high-contrast look to the film that makes every frame feel like a found Polaroid from a crime scene. The vibe is anchored by a soundtrack that is aggressively disordinate. Imagine a scene where a character is undergoing a deeply invasive, physically traumatic, psychological remapping, and the speakers are blasting a sugary, up 1954 doo-wop track. That juxtaposition creates a sense of profound nausea. It's a trick that David Lynch likes to play, but here it feels more clinical. The movie itself is mocking the character's pain. And let's be candid, the first 45 minutes are a slog. It's a deliberate glacial crawl that focuses on Diana's disorientation. We spend a lot of time watching her stare at the tree line, watching Homer be supportive in a way that feels increasingly like a leash, and observing other residents. However, once we hit the midpoint, the film doesn't just accelerate, it mutates. The experimental trauma center begins to live up to its name. We shift from a psychological drama into a full-blown body horror. There's a specific sequence involving a memory retrieval device that looks like something cobbled together in a Soviet basement in 1979. All rusted dials and wet organic tubes. When the practical effects kick in, they are visceral. We're talking like hide your hinds behind the popcorn levels of tactile. It's not just for shock, it represents the literal breaking down of the self. Grace Glowicki is doing Olympian-level work here. She has to play a woman who is essentially a hollowed-out vessel for the first half, and then slowly fill that vessel with a mixture of terror and white-hot rage. Watching her physical transformation as she regains her memories is the highlight of the film. Then there's Jason Isaacs as Joseph, which he's kind of haunting because he's a mirror of Homer. He's there with his daughter seeking the same radical treatment for her that Diane is receiving. Isaac leans into a weary, patriarchal desperation. He never raises his voice, but his presence radiates a specific brand of quietly wrong. He and Kate Dickie, who provides the actual clinical, terrifying face of the facility, makes you feel like this nightmare isn't just a mistake, it's a shared hopeless destination for broken families. So why isn't this a 5-star masterpiece? There is a certain hollow feeling to the script toward the end of the second act. While the cinematography and the acting are doing the heavy lifting, the narrative bones feel a bit thin. It relies heavily on the shrouded mystery trope, but doesn't always provide enough breadcrumbs to keep the audience's hunger satisfied during these slow stretches. It's an almost romantic body horror that sometimes forgets to be a movie and settles into being a mood. And there is a massive, glaring character decision that happens in the final 15 minutes of this film, a choice that's kind of frustrating and will likely dominate the comments section for the next year. And I think it kind of changes the entire context of Diana and Homer's relationship. And it pivots the film from a survival story into something much more strange. But I won't spoil it here, I'll save that for the ending explained. Honey Bunch is a film that demands your patience and rewards it with a sensory assault. It's original, it's beautifully shot, and it features some pretty good body horror practical effects. But overall, for me, it's a 3 out of 5. It's anchored by a stellar cast, but held back by a script that feels like it's missing just one more layer of intellectual depth to match its visual brilliance. If you love the vibes of 70s genre cinema and you don't mind a movie that takes its sweet time to get to the bloodletting, it is absolutely worth watching. Just be prepared to walk away from this movie feeling a little bit more fragile than when you walked in. But what did you think of Honey Bunch? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing. If you want to support the channel a little further, hit the join button and join our membership for only 99 cents. Also, check out the ending explained by my head here, and I'll see you next time.